only thing that seemed like a real jerk move to me was F1 trying to cover up any view that a person could have, any sort of walkover, anything like that. I get it. Y'all think you're awesome. That's great. I'm still a big believer that I think without Drive to Survive, which, and I say this with love, it's an awesome program, but it is a soap opera for adults, if we're all
Hmm.
honest, right?
Yeah,
It's a great soap opera,
it's
but
a great
that's what
soap
it
opera.
is.
Yeah,
I personally feel like the racing product is not as quality as that show.
no, yeah,
And
that's true. Well, the racing product was a lot better a few years ago during the height of COVID when the show really took off, and you had Max and Lewis were going at it every weekend.
yes, that was way more entertaining. But, you know, me coming from NASCAR, covering that for almost 20 years, you know, like we have passing and where people qualify doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to finish. And
That's
so
right.
for me, I've listened to people criticize NASCAR for so many years, talking about, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Y'all, F1's boring. The sport right now is not exciting. I know we're in this era where Max is the king. I'm not discrediting that at all. But he also was basically quoted saying he doesn't really like the racing part. He just wants to get out and win. And I'm like, so you like qualifying? Bro, that's not what is happening. What is happening? It's not like Schumacher was ever like, the passing part is fun, but I really just like being alone by myself and just running the fastest laps
Sunday
I can.
drive, a Sunday drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and just back to Formula One in Las Vegas again. Could you have ever imagined that? And maybe it is obviously, Netflix is one part of the ingredient here, but could you ever have imagined that the American public would have such an interest in what's happening with Formula One, and that they would know who Verstappen was, or that they would care whether Hamilton won? I mean, I went to races for years in Detroit, and there were no Americans there. I mean, they were the
Right.
South Americans.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at, I've always, for the record, I know it sounds like I'm hating on F1. I'm not. I just think the product needs to be better. And I think we need to have actual passing, actual
Mm-hmm.
racing going on more than we have. So I just want to be clear. I've been in that group that gets up really early and watches races from around the world because we have to, right? Every time we'd be at a NASCAR track and there's a race on at 6 a.m., we would all get there early and go in and they'd have the feed for us and we'd go watch. So I'm a huge fan. I can't believe the way that the show has impacted, and really that's what's driven it, right? And
Yep.
because if you talk to guys like Dak Shepard, Dak's the perfect example, right? He's got his podcast, F1 with DRS, and the way that people have responded to that, and it's again talking about the subculture and all these other different parts of it, but also talking about what makes us, align ourselves with a certain driver. The reason that I love Daniel Ricciardo, right? The first interview I ever saw with that guy, I was like, this is my dude. He's someone that I want to pull
Oh,
for.
he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see the seasons and the change and all of those things. I don't think anyone could have guessed when that show got pitched, and especially to a streaming service that doesn't show racing, which is another, like the fact that Netflix, I've done some really fun stuff and certainly a lot of car stuff with them, but the fact that they bought this show about this global sport and thought, well, we're in 180 countries, people will watch in some capacity, but then for it to be this just absolute doorbuster, that's crazy.